Hi there, I'm E, and this is not your father's 2 cents. It's been a historic election season, and the ride is just beginning. By now, you probably know that President Joe Biden will not be seeking re-election this November, giving his endorsement to Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, we're not here to get into politics. You can trust me on that. But it's no secret that major political events have a financial impact. According to a report from CNN, the Dow jumped 211 points, or 0.5% on Monday, July 15th, closing at a fresh record high. This comes just 2 days after the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. The U.S. dollar rose 0.1%, and the price of Bitcoin climbed 4%. Now, on the other side of the coin, the stock market seemingly wasn't majorly impacted by Biden's bombshell announcement. According to a recent Forbes report, the Nasdaq rose nearly 1% by late morning on July 22nd. That was the day after Biden's announcement. The S&P 500 gained 0.5%. So what does this mean for you, particularly on your retirement accounts or your overall investment portfolio? Before we jump into today's episode, it is important to note that Democrats will be holding a virtual vote to select a nominee on August 7th, which is after the recording of this podcast. So today's episode is just going to focus on a Republican versus Democratic economy. Joining me today is Dan Casey, investment advisor and owner of Bridge River Advisors in Metro Detroit, Michigan. He specializes in retirement planning, helping clients make investments that will generate income in retirement. Hi, Dan.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing awesome.
So it's been a crazy election season, to say the least.
Yes, and I think, what is going to always remain is volatility, right? So even once the election thing is over and we all know who's in power, it's still, the stock market's just volatile. So whether it's volatile now in the short term, it's just always going to be volatile. So kind of know where your money is and have a purpose for your buckets of money.
Yeah. Speaking of that, are you seeing clients who are like really getting worried about that with us getting so close to the election?
Yes. So we can clearly look at the stock charts right now and know that the stock market is pricing in a Trump victory. So as long as that happens, I think it won't be as volatile. But if things start to change and it looks like he won't, then obviously the stock market is not going to like that at all. So, so I think that's just going to add to the massive volatility. And really look, I mean, if you're young, who cares? I mean, diversify your portfolio, get in the market, and then just maybe not opening up your statements for a little bit when it's getting crazy and volatile. But obviously, with the clientele that I work with, those closer to retirement or in retirement, it's crazy time. So you just have to, again, I really think people's risk tolerance, meaning, how much volatility they can stand, it constantly changes, and it's really not supposed to, right? When I ask people when they first come into my office, what's your risk tolerance? How much volatility can you stand? When the market's doing awesome, they're like, oh, I can stand it. I get it. Stock market goes up. Stock market goes down. Well, yeah, you ask them when the market's crashing, and all of a sudden it's drastically changed. It's like, oh, I didn't know it was going to drop this much. So it's really all about just, having the appropriate amount in the stock market that you're not going to touch for a while. Really, anytime you put a dime into the stock market, you've got to think of that as a 5-year window before you even think about touching any of that money.
Really?
So again, you just got to know what you're getting into with the stock market. And most people do, but when you're looking at those stock charts, if you blur your eyes, it pretty much just always goes up, right? It's just when you really focus in on some of those time periods, it can really be gut-wrenching when you're opening up your statements and you're losing a lot of your money. And, politics, of course, it drives that to a huge degree. So that's going to just increase volatility, I'm sure, before the end of this year.
Yeah. So how long, I guess it's probably hard to say, but how long does that last? Like you were mentioning earlier, right now the stock market is predicting a Trump win, but if it reverses, how long could things be down for? Or is it hard to say?
Well, of course it's hard to say, but we can always take our best guess. And it's usually, I would say about the first 12 months, it's going to be sketchy until we're really clear on, the plans of the new presidency. If it's if it's not Trump. As of right now, if the Democrats win and we've got a more liberal agenda, like Camilla has had in the past, maybe she becomes more centralist, but that's going to, I think, spook the market. We usually in the past, Republicans tend to have a more business approach, right? Cutting corporate taxes and things like that are good for businesses, good for the stock market, and heck, good for all of our 401ks and retirement plans. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Okay.
Every day will be different, right?
Yeah. So that probably makes things difficult for you.
It absolutely does. And what's helpful, I guess, for those like nearing retirement is if you don't want to take the risk of the stock market, there are some really, really great alternatives. Now, I don't think they're going to be around for the long term, like even cash, just a good old money market. You're getting paid decent to just sit back and chill for a little bit, right? 5% in a money market is not horrible. Now, again, if you're young, well, then I wouldn't even accept 5%. Just put your money in the market because in the long term, you're going to make way more than that. But again, if you're nearing retirement, you absolutely should be getting some money out of the stock market and probably dollar cost averaging out of the market already. But if you're not getting some money out, we're at all-time high. So get your money out, get it into a safe money market, or start looking at income annuities and creating your own pension if you're going to have a gap in retirement. Most people do. Most people need more income above and beyond Social Security. Most don't have pensions anymore. So you need to create your own pension, and income annuities, all annuities right now are at such historical, incredible rates. It's really something that you should look at. Kind of the saying in the industry is when interest rates go down, you refinance your mortgage, right? When interest rates go up, you refinance your retirement. And that's what a lot of my clients are doing anyways. And so we're taking advantage of those higher rates right now and locking in some good rates.
Yeah. So, a lot of talk in the media has been, like this is, and it is a historic election cycle. In the past, obviously, we haven't experienced anything to this degree, but what is there any similarities or anything that you've kind of like worked through this before with clients in the past, or that you've seen in the industry where, these political events have really impacted things in the financial world?
I guess the answer is no. I've tried to do tons of research on, we kind of seen this scenario before, and in general, maybe, but there's so many different variables involved that it's like, well, yeah, I guess it's kind of like this particular era, but energy prices were double than what they are now, or we had this going on, or that war, or something. So it seems like there's always something that can make you think, yeah, I guess it's kind of like that era, but it's really not helpful at all in kind of trying to figure out what the heck is the market's going to do in the near future. And obviously, if someone really had a great handle on that, they'd be a very rich person on an island somewhere,
Yeah.
So, yeah, we haven't figured that out.
So can you kind of explain to us from your perspective, like what our economy could look like with a Republican administration versus a Democratic one?
Yeah, so Republicans, again, I think will probably be doing okay. Currently, we are kind of slowing down a little bit, but it doesn't mean recession is imminent or anything like that. It's just the growth is slowing, and I think that will continue as the Fed continues to cut rates. That will help spur the economy. We currently have about $6 trillion sitting just in cash, and for good reasons. As I previously said, it's paying pretty good right now. But as the Fed starts cutting those rates, that money is going to be leaving the cash and probably going into the market. So I think that's going to help continue the market. And of course, rates coming down, mortgages will be better. And so people start refinancing and buying, I think, again. And so I think, and of course, Trump's always said, he's going to reduce the corporate taxation, which again, if you're like the rich shouldn't get these tax cuts, we always say, well, the rich usually are the ones who own the businesses and employ people. So it's not always a bad thing, and that helps spur the economy. So again, I think under a Republican majority will be fine. The economy will be just fine. And even a Democratic, I don't think it's again a lot of the talk right now is that they will raise corporate taxes. So I don't think that's definitely an end all to the economy. I just think it's possible that the growth might not be as good as it is under a Republican majority.
Now, what would be the point of raising corporate taxes? Like, what's the push for that?
Just to get more revenue in so they can dole it out to whomever they want.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're right. You said not to get too political. Sorry. So that tends to be
okay.
So again, high level Republicans tend to cut taxes to spur jobs to get growth. Democrats tend to want to raise tax revenue so they can employ more programs that, in their view, helps spur the economy too. So again, it's the whole supply side economics, the Reagan economics. It's just the different strategies of how we spur the economy. Because at the end of the day, we're looking at $34 trillion in debt as a country. So really, for the only reason, and recently, I think it was the end of 2023 or maybe the beginning of 2024, interest on the debt surpassed what we are paying for defense in this country. So it's gotten just incredibly bad. So really the best way to have that not drown us as a nation is to spur the growth. And with more growth and more jobs and more tax revenue, we can be fine. The debt won't be an anchor around our neck. But so that's really the goal of both parties. It's just how they go about it. I've just kind of, I guess maybe because I'm old, Reagan economics is what I kind of grew up with. And he was, he kind of started the trickle down economics where if you help businesses grow, they create more jobs creates more tax revenue for the government. And that's the strategies that they employ. And it's just kind of things that I've always thought worked pretty well. Yeah.
Do you, let's see here. What was I going to say? I totally forgot. Do you, I guess bringing it back to kind of like the personal finance side of things, do you see inflation cooling anytime soon once we kind of get through this election season?
Yes, but the problem is, I don't think it's not over. Let's put it that way. There's studies have shown that anytime inflation has spiked over 6%, it doesn't go away anytime soon. So it's come down pretty dramatically recently. But just the fact that, again, that we're $34, $35 trillion in debt in this country, that also is not going to help matters as far as how we finance the debt and causing inflation, I think, to be a little extra sticky for a while.
Yeah.
And when you're retired and you've got no more money coming in and you got to live off this income for 10, 20, 30, maybe even 40 years, inflation is a real killer.
Right.
Reagan called inflation is like a thief in the night. It slowly steals your money. You can see I'm a big Ronald Reagan fan. I've already referred to him 2 or 3 times today.
That's fine. That's totally fine. So do you think, kind of speaking of retirement, do you think people with kind of like all this hype around what's going on and the unknowns of, who's going to be on the ticket for the Democrats, do you think people might be worried about like their 401ks or even like the uncertainty around Social Security? Like, how do you kind of calm people's fears about that? Or what do you think? They definitely shouldn't panic for sure. But what advice would you give them if somebody's like, what does this mean for what I'm saving for retirement? Or, how do I plan around not knowing what's going to go on with Social Security with them, predicting that 100% of benefits aren't going to be paid by the next 10, 11 years?
I think that's really hard to plan around Social Security, either being there or not being there. It's roughly 2/3 of most of my clients' income.
Really?
So, I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, people live mostly on that, and maybe their gap is 20, 30, 40, 50,000 a year above and beyond. But, I mean, that's huge. So I guess my gut is that would just be a political bombshell if any regime cuts Social Security dramatically or anything like that. I think the only people that should be afraid are the people that have just massive amounts of way more than just the average you and I, millions and millions in retirement assets, where they may do a means test, meaning if you're already getting income from your investments or pensions or Social Security, and it's substantial amount of money above some sort of mean that they come up with, then your Social Security might be cut, but not for the normal mom and pop. There's just no way. I mean, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
So I think to put a fine point on that, so I don't think Social Security is going away for 95% of us. So that's probably safe. And then really in retirement, any income you get through above and beyond your Social Security should not be in the stock market in the first place. That's just kind of a big no-no. You don't want to take income from a stock market portfolio, or at least on a regular basis anyways, because when the market's going up, it's not a problem. Taking money from a portfolio that's going up is awesome, but you better have a backup plan when the stock market's crashing, because if you're taking dollars from a portfolio that's crashing, you're killing dollars that should have been there to make it back up when the market recovers. So, you really don't want to have a stock market portfolio anyways for income. So whether it's like a dividend portfolio or an annuity, or something that's more guaranteed, once you set aside the right amount of assets for that income, then the other assets you can take more risk if you want. Right. And again, dollar for dollar, if you're given enough time, the stock market always does go up. So as long as you're not, having to sell stuff for income or having to sell stuff for something, then you can just let it continue to grow. And again, in those rough times, maybe not turn on CNBC or don't open your statements for a while.
Yeah.
If you're that type of person.
Yeah. But it shouldn't be probably something where you freak out about like the amount that you're seeing necessarily. Like there's comfort in knowing that it's going to go back up eventually.
Yes, exactly. And again, it just goes back to risk tolerance. In retirement, if you can't sleep at night because you just lost 20%, well, then you either shouldn't have that much in the stock market, or you misjudge kind of your risk tolerance, because you really got to remember how you felt the last time the market crashed, like in 2008, when for a while there you just lost half your portfolio.
Right.
So again, that's why insurance companies are here. They are the masters of risk mitigation. So if you don't want to lose 20% of your portfolio ever, well, then you need to ramp up how much you have in safer products like indexed annuities, fixed annuities, things like that, where you're going to be guaranteed some basic rate of return, but more importantly, not ever lose money.
Yeah,
that's super important in retirement, because you can't afford a lost decade when you're retired, like we saw in 2008.
Right. Oh yeah, that could almost be catastrophic to some retirees. Definitely.
Absolutely.
It seems like a balancing act for sure, which can be hard to juggle.
It is. Every bucket of money needs to have a purpose, because different investments are, they're perfect for that purpose. For instance, if you've got a bucket of money that's for income, well, there's amazing products and investments out there that are built just for income. So you're going to maximize that bucket of money. And then again, if you've got another money that's just growth, maybe that's going to be your future inflation hedge. Well, there's clearly investments out there that are perfect for massive growth. You just got to understand how each investment, the pros and cons of each type of investment, and have that proper investment in each bucket, so that you've got the purpose there.
Right. So you don't end up losing out, or
right,
it not meeting your financial goals. So it's really probably all about kind of knowing what you want, knowing what your financial goals are, and knowing kind of what you want things to look like in retirement. And then probably getting with an expert like you in times of uncertainty like this to kind of, have that reassurance and make sure that, you're making the right decisions for you, that you're not going to screw yourself for lack of a better word.
Exactly. Because you want to have, obviously you want to have, you want to get the biggest returns as possible. You want the most liquidity as possible for emergencies or the cottage that you want or the boat. So you want to get as much of all that you want into your entire portfolio. So again, it just goes back to having your money have a purpose and then figuring out what best investment fits that purpose. So you have the liquidity, because obviously some of the annuities that I just talked about have amazing benefits, but you give up liquidity. So again, all your money should not be in annuities, of course, right? Because you want as much liquidity as you want. So there's a kind of a saying, and I think this works in many different industries, but every investment usually has three features: growth, safety, and liquidity. But you can only pick two of those three for every investment. Every investment has two of the three. There's no such thing as an investment that has, great growth, super safe, and super liquid, right? It just does not exist. So you can always have two of the three. So the idea is you have many investments that have two of the three. So when you blend them all together, you do have some decent growth, some decent safety, and some decent liquidity.
Gotcha. So I know we've kind of gotten into this a little bit, but at the end of each episode, since it's called Not Your Father's 2 Cents, I like to kind of have like the guests give their 2 cents about the topic. So I think with this, you would probably say like, don't panic. It's easy to watch TV and to read everything online, and it's almost, I almost want to say it's kind of like fear mongering in a way. Like one side will make it seem like if the other side gets in, like the country's ruined and all your money's lost, and you're not going to make it. So what are your 2 cents on kind of how all this is going, and what advice would you give to people who maybe feel uneasy or unsure about what the economy is going to look like? Yep.
And just to add on to your point, social media is just making it all worse too, right? Because anytime you go down a rabbit hole and look at something, now you're in the algorithm and you get fed all those other. So you feel like we're all on the same page. We're all in. It's super dividing, I think, right now. So I guess the first thing that just popped in my head when you said the name of the show was, our fathers and mothers all had pensions.
Yes.
And we don't have those anymore due to law changes, right, and things like that. So I think the big thing is, making sure that you have the proper income in retirement. Growth is super important in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, but really it needs to at some point take a backseat to income. So you need to look at your income because, again, your fathers, your mothers, they all had pensions, and now not so much anymore. So look at that. And another thing our fathers and mothers didn't really have to worry about is probably massive tax increases in the next couple decades. So really look at that as well. I know we didn't talk about much on taxes in this episode anyways, but that's, of course, super important right now as retirees enter the next phase of their life in a possibly massive increasing inflationary period. Tax period.
Yeah. Can you elaborate?
Maybe even inflationary period.
Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
The taxes part?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the Trump tax plan, when they changed the tax brackets, they changed it to where there's a 22% bracket, and for 2 percentage points more into the 24, your income can be much, much higher in the high threes. And I think what their goal was in that is trying to urge people to do conversions from the always taxable buckets, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, into the never taxable bucket, so the Roth money. And I think that's where people's heads are right now and have been for a while is, oh crap, we've been putting money into our 401ks our whole life. Yay, we've been saving a little bit of taxes as doing that, but boy, did we just create a monster. And the IRS requires you to start pulling all that money out in your retirement. So, and if tax rates are going up, and it's a time where you're having to pull money out when most of my clients don't even need it, and tax rates are increasing. So, my clients were all battling that as well. How much do we convert? And when you convert, it changes your income, and that can affect your Medicare premium. So there's just a lot going on, and yay, that's job security for me, but it's scary for a lot of my clients. So It's, and I'm sure every group of retirees think this way, but this particular group that I think are retiring right now, it's going to be some scary couple decades.
Yeah. How do you kind of calm their fears?
Again, I guess it's really all about income.
Yeah.
You can get through everything and not worry about anything as long as you have income. And in retirement, why would you want to, worry so much about when the next paycheck's coming in or crap, I can't sell my investments for income right now because I'm down 20%. And so it's really just about getting the paychecks, getting the guaranteed income to come in, at least for your basic necessities, but maybe even a little bit more. And just have that come in so you don't have to worry about it. Who cares what the market's doing? Who cares what the media says? My income's fine. It's coming in, and I'll be fine. I can make it through any storm.
Right. So it's really about kind of figuring out those other streams of income in your growing years, probably, in your 40s, 50s, as you're kind of getting close, but you've still got some time. Would you say that's like the most important thing, is just making sure that you can support yourself regardless of what's happening in the country?
Yes. I love it when people come to me at least a decade before they retire, but rarely is that the case. It allows us to tax plan and to start thinking about how much income they're going to need and preparing for that. But unfortunately, way too many people come to me and say, "Hey, Dan, I just retired last week. Here's my money. Let's go. Give me all this income." It's like, a little heads up would have been nice, but
they'll come to you after they've retired.
Well, it's all spectrums, really. Yeah, some people come to me and they're like, well, "I want to retire in a couple months." And regardless if it's like 2-3 months or they just retired, it's all the same to me in the scope of trying to come up with a decent plan. It's just not enough time.
Yeah,
I would prefer having. I mean, it's all everything's doable, but ideally. I would like a little bit more time to start moving money around to tax diversify and to get an income plan set in space in time. And it just takes time sometimes.
Yeah. Because then they're kind of coming to you at the last minute, and then that's putting you under pressure to try to make things work.
Now, listen, if you come to me and you got $10 million and all you need is $90,000 a year, I can make that work. You don't need to give me a decade, but sometimes it's a little bit more sketchier than that. You get the people that come to me and it's nice, they don't have millions and they want to generate a lot of income. It's like, okay, guys, you're going to make me work for this one, aren't you?
They're going to make you keep that job security.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today, Dan.
This went by fast.
It did go by fast.
Time flies. Thanks for having me.
Fun.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So before I let you go, where can people go to learn more about you and the services that you offer? Yeah,
bridgeriverllc.com. And that links to my YouTube channel, which I've got a lot of videos on there. So they're free to peruse around, and to have a television show that airs all over the place. It's just sometimes it changes, so it's best to go to the website and find out where that's when that's playing.
All right. Well, sounds good. Thank you so much again.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. See ya.
See ya.
All right, that'll do it for this edition. Sources used in this episode will be linked in the description, along with a link to Dan's website where you can go check him out. Thank you for listening, and I'll meet you back here next week.